With illegal border crossings up sharply last month, the Department of Homeland Security is considering a tough new measure that would send immigrant children to one detention center and their parents to another while they wait to see if they'll be admitted as refugees or sent back. Cracking down on illegal immigration was a theme of the Trump campaign, and routinely separating families was considered last spring. But John Kelly rejected it when he was Homeland Secretary, saying it would be used sparingly.
You know, the mother, if the mother is sick or addicted to drugs or whatever.
Now, with a surge in illegal migration at the southern border, administration officials say it's again under discussion as part of an effort to look at every possible way to discourage illegal migration. A group that lobbies for tougher enforcement says it would be an act of compassion.
It would dissuade parents from trusting themselves and their children to smugglers. And the smuggling organizations that operate along the border are heartless individuals who treat human beings like merchandise.
But advocates for immigrants say separating families is inhumane.
Ripping a child from its mother's arms is never a compassionate act, and no policy is going to deter a mother who's acting to save her child's life.
The plan has not yet been approved by the new Homeland Secretary, Kirstjen Nielsen, but officials now say it is getting a serious look. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.